Las Vegas, 1972, the night was alive with anticipation. Inside the packed International Hotel showroom, nearly 4,600 fans filled every seat, their excitement buzzing through the air. The lights dimmed, and a hush fell across the crowd. Then, suddenly, the spotlight hit the stage. Elvis Presley appeared, dazzling in his white rhinestone jumpsuit, his signature cape shimmering as he spread his arms wide. The orchestra struck the first note, and the audience erupted into cheers, screams, and flashes of cameras. Elvis grinned, soaking in the adoration before launching into Burning Love. The king was unstoppable, hips swinging, voice echoing with pure power, every movement perfectly timed. Women cried, men shouted his name, and the whole hall pulsed like one giant heartbeat. But amid the thunder of applause and music, a faint, unusual sound reached Elvis's ear, a child's soft cry from the front rows. His brow furrowed slightly. He motioned for the band to fade out. The instruments fell silent, leaving only that small, trembling sob echoing in the quiet. The audience, confused, began to whisper. No one had ever seen Elvis stop a performance before. The king leaned forward, scanning the crowd. His sharp blue eyes softened when he spotted a little boy sitting beside his mother, the boy's tiny face red and tear-streaked, clutching a worn-out teddy bear. The mother tried to hush him, embarrassed, but Elvis raised a gentle hand as if to say, "It's okay." He smiled warmly and spoke softly into the microphone, "Hey there, little man, what's wrong?" The entire hall froze in awe. Cameras clicked. In that single moment, Elvis wasn't just a superstar, he was a man with a heart big enough to stop the show for one crying child. The room was utterly still, the band waiting, the audience silent, and all eyes fixed on Elvis Presley as he stepped down from the spotlight toward the edge of the stage. His white jumpsuit glistened under the dimmed lights, and his face softened with compassion. The little boy's mother stood nervously, her eyes wide with embarrassment. "I'm so sorry, Mr. Presley," she whispered, her voice trembling. But Elvis shook his head gently, smiling in reassurance. "Ma'am, no need to be sorry," he said softly, his southern accent melting through the microphone. "I just want to make sure the little fella's all right." He crouched down at the edge of the stage, bringing himself eye level with the crying boy. The crowd watched, holding their breath. Elvis reached into his pocket, pulled out one of his trademark silk scarves, and offered it to the child. "Here, partner," he said kindly. "This one's for you. No more tears, okay?" The boy sniffled, clutching his teddy bear tighter. "Thank you," he whispered, but his voice broke again. Elvis smiled, his heart clearly touched. "What's your name, little man?" The boy hesitated before whispering, "Danny." "My daddy's gone." A wave of emotion swept through the crowd. Elvis's eyes glistened, his lips parted as if searching for words. He gently reached out, brushing the boy's hair. "Danny," he said softly, "I know that kind of hurt, son. But you're not alone tonight, you hear me? We're all right here with you." The audience began to tear up, many dabbing their eyes. Elvis stood up, turned to the band, and said quietly, "Boys, let's do something special for Danny." The musicians nodded. Elvis adjusted his mic and whispered, "This one's for you and your daddy, little man." The audience waited in silence, the tension thick with emotion. Elvis turned back toward the band, gave a small nod, and the soft opening chords of "Love Me Tender" filled the hall. The lights dimmed to a gentle blue, casting a calm glow over the stage. Elvis took a deep breath, then began to sing, his voice lower, warmer, trembling slightly with feeling. "Love me tender, love me true," he sang, gazing softly toward little Danny in the front row. Each note carried a weight that words alone could never express. The boy's sobs began to quiet as he hugged the white silk scarf close to his chest. His mother held him tightly, tears streaming down her face. The audience was spellbound. Every fan who came expecting the king of rock and roll now saw the king of compassion, a man who could turn a massive concert into a personal lullaby for one heartbroken child. As Elvis reached the final verse, he paused for a heartbeat and gently changed the lyrics. "Love me tender, love me true. Danny, I love you." The crowd gasped. The line hung in the air like a prayer. Then, as the last note faded, the entire hall rose to their feet. Applause thundered through the room, but Elvis didn't bow or soak it in. Instead, he looked back at Danny and blew him a soft kiss. The little boy smiled through his tears, whispering, "Thank you, Elvis." For a moment, even the flashing cameras stopped. The king smiled back, eyes misty, and said quietly, "You're welcome, son." That night, it wasn't just another concert, it became a moment of pure humanity, one that would be remembered long after the music ended. 50 years later, that unforgettable concert moment resurfaced in a way no one expected. A rare recording of Elvis stopping his show for little Danny was uploaded online by an old stage technician who had kept the reel for decades. Within hours, the video spread across social media. Millions watched in awe as Elvis knelt before the crying child, offering comfort instead of fame. Comments flooded in, "This is what real legends are made of, Elvis had the biggest heart," and "I cried watching this." The world fell in love with Elvis Presley's humanity all over again. Among those who watched the clip was a teenager named Danny Jr., the son of that same little boy Elvis had comforted all those years ago. Inspired by the story his late father often told, Danny Jr. decided to audition for America's Got Talent, AGT. When he stepped onto the stage, he held a small teddy bear and wore a white scarf, just like the one Elvis had given his dad. The judges were curious, then the music began. Danny Jr. softly sang, "Love Me Tender." His voice was tender, trembling but full of emotion. As the screen behind him showed a black and white image of Elvis with his father, the audience gasped. Simon Cowell, usually stoic, blinked rapidly, visibly moved. When the final note ended, the crowd rose in a standing ovation. Simon pressed the golden buzzer, his voice thick with emotion as he said, "That was more than a song, that was history repeating itself." Elvis would be proud. Golden confetti rained down as Danny Jr. looked upward, whispering, "This one's for you, Dad, and for the King." The world once again remembered the man behind the legend, Elvis Presley, not just as the king of rock and roll, but as a king with a heart that touched generations. After Danny Jr.'s emotional AGT performance went viral, media outlets across the globe revisited that unforgettable 1972 night. News channels replayed the moment Elvis stopped his show for a crying child, and fans, old and new, filled social media with tributes. "Elvis never left the building, he lives through love." At Graceland, visitors began leaving small teddy bears, silk scarves, and handwritten notes that read, "For Danny." A quiet corner was dedicated to that night, a framed photo of Elvis handing the scarf to the little boy, with a plaque that read, "Kindness is timeless." Danny Jr. was later invited to perform at a tribute concert titled, "Tender Hearts, The Elvis Legacy." The event brought together artists from around the world, singing not to celebrate fame, but the compassion that music can inspire. On stage, Danny Jr. performed "Love Me Tender" one final time, and as he sang the last verse, thousands of fans held up white scarves in the air, a sea of love shimmering under golden lights. Backstage, he was asked what that moment meant to him. Smiling through tears, he said, "Elvis showed my father that even in a crowd of thousands, one broken heart still matters. Tonight, I just wanted to pass that love on." And so, the legacy continued, not just in records or awards, but in hearts healed through music and kindness. Elvis had once said, "Values are like fingerprints, you leave them on everything you touch." That night proved his prints were everywhere.